In the late 1900s, theme parks were wanting more. Whether it's the tallest coaster or the fastest, parks just wanted more. But then in 2000, there was a new force, Millennium Force. You see, Cedar Point had created a war of coasters, and while Cedar Point had fought this war for decades, they were ready to end it. Standing 310 feet tall and reaching a top speed of 93 miles an hour, Millennium Force was known across the theme park community as one of the best machines in the world. It changed the way people look at coasters. Now, I could talk all day about the precision of the track or its beautiful spot on Lake Erie, but today I'm going to try to fit it all into one review, so this is the complete review of Millennium Force. For me, the perfect coaster starts before you even enter the queue line, and Millennium Force makes one of the best first impressions in the world. With the overbank flying over you and the overall atmosphere of this area, this coaster makes one good impression. Not only that, but you have quite possibly the best entrance sign in the world. As soon as you get up to this coaster, your heart starts pumping, but as soon as that train roars by you, you want nothing more than to get in line. I'll admit, I hate waiting in lines, but there's something about waiting under the cover of Millennium Force's queue line and watching the final turn roar around you that's like nothing else. And oh yeah, no metal detectors here. But seriously, don't bring loose articles on coasters. Once you're out of the switchbacks, you walk right by the speed hill. Cedar Point even makes this interact with the unload station so that you can see people exit the ride. As you get closer and closer to the station, you begin to hear Now, if this doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will. Once you get to the station, they'll let you choose your row. Now, I won't tell you what row to choose, but on my first ride, we went straight for the back row. We study these machines down to the bolts that keep it into the earth. So, when we finally get out to riding these coasters, you can't help but think to yourself, is this really happening? And you know, I think Millennium Force does this best. Climbing that lift hill with my friend beside me made me really believe I was going to wake up and it would be a dream. But that didn't happen, and for the first drop, I held on so tight that my hands hurt. Now, Maverick has the steepness, and Steel Vengeance has the hype. But on Millennium Force, the drop felt like it lasted forever. And those 3 seconds might have just been the best 3 seconds of my life. As I slowly began to let go of the Intamin T-bar, I looked over to Lake Erie and realized this was happening. After that, my hands were in the air, and I had the biggest smile on my face. After the first drop, it flings you into an overbank at speeds of 93 miles an hour. By the time we reached the top of the overbank, I couldn't even keep my hands up, it was so intense. By the end of the overbank, I'm kind of thinking back to all the times people have called this ride Millennium Forceless and laughing in my whoa, what was that? Let's rewind. Basically, Millennium Force throws you into a Maverick type turn, and oh yeah, we're going over 90 miles an hour. After that, you fly over the pathway and into a giant airtime hill. I wouldn't say this gives ejector, it just gives you a nice time to catch your breath. At this time, you get one of the best views on a coaster ever, and you realize that you're one of the only people in the world that can see that view right now. We travel hundreds of miles to ride these coasters in a search for the new number one coaster. You see, those first few elements are, in my opinion, the best way to start any coaster in the world. But after that, it turns into a bunch of low-to-the-ground turns and overbanks. Don't get me wrong, some of these low-to-the-ground turns became some of the most memorable parts of the ride. But for me, the problem is they just don't compare to other machines. Even though the second half is a little bit weak, as soon as I got off of Millennium Force for the first time, I texted my friend and fellow coaster enthusiast, I think I just found my new number one. I would go on to send him a picture of me in front of the Millennium Force logo. But here's the thing. The next day, I would text him that exact same message, just this time on the other side of the park. Look, I don't think Millennium Force is the best coaster in the world, but with some coasters, they don't have to be. Millennium Force showed me that a ride doesn't have to be perfect to be amazing. Sure, it has tons of straight track, but the sheer speed makes up for it, so Millennium Force showed me this. The only question is which coaster did that for you.